Imagine coming home after school. You're just 5 years old. You walk through the front door and call out your mom. But nobody answers. You search the rooms. Nothing. Then you walk upstairs towards the rooftop. And just minutes later, your father receives a phone call that will destroy his entire world. Your son has fallen from the roof. Come home immediately. 5-year-old Jatin is rushed to the hospital. His mother is crying beside him. His father is begging the doctors, "Please sir, save my child." But despite every effort, Jatin doesn't survive. At first, everyone believed it was a tragic incident. A 5-year-old boy, a rooftop, one terrible fall, case closed. Or was it? Because weeks later, Jatin's father begins noticing something strange. His wife's story doesn't seem to stay the same, and what he eventually discovers turns a tragic accident into a shocking murder investigation. But here's the biggest question. What exactly did 5-year-old Jatin see on that rooftop? And why would someone be so desperate to make sure he never talked about it? This is the disturbing case of Jatin Rathore. Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. From the outside, the Rathore family looked completely ordinary. Dhyan Singh Rathore worked as a constable with the Madhya Pradesh Police. His wife, Jyoti Rathore, was a homemaker. And their only child was 5 years old, Jatin. Jatin was the kind of child everyone in their neighborhood knew. He loved riding his bicycle. He loved playing outside. And like most 5-year-olds, he has an endless supply of questions. For the neighbors, he was simply a happy, energetic little boy. Nothing about the family appeared unusual. A father, a mother, a son, a normal middle-class household. But some things, the most disturbing stories began inside homes that look completely normal from the outside. Then come April 28, 2023. Jatin returned home from school. He entered the house and called for his mother. "Mom!" No answer. He looked around. Nothing. He checked one room, then another, still nothing. Eventually, according to the account presented in the case, Jatin went towards the rooftop. And only minutes later, people outside the house heard the commotion. A 5-year-old boy has fallen from the roof of the 2-story house. Jatin was lying seriously injured on the ground. His mother was crying, neighbors rushed to help, and Jatin was taken to the hospital. At the same time, his father was still on duty. Then his phone rang. "Dhyan Singh, come home immediately. Your son has fallen from the roof." Imagine hearing those words as a parent. You don't think, you don't ask questions, you just run. And that's exactly what Dhyan Singh did. He rushed to the hospital. Doctors fought to save Jatin, but the injuries were too severe. After hours of treatment, the family received the news no parent ever wanted to hear. Jatin was dead. 5 years old, gone. Initially, the incident appeared straightforward. A child had fallen from a rooftop. The death was treated as accidental. There was no immediate murder investigation, no obvious suspect, no reason, at least initially, to believe anyone had intentionally harmed the boy. For Dhyan Singh and Jyoti, life seemed to stop. Their only child was gone. Days passed, then weeks. But while everyone else slowly moved on, Dhyan Singh couldn't. Something kept bothering him. He was a police officer, and police officers are trained to ask questions, not just what happened, but does the story actually make sense? And one question wouldn't leave his mind. What really happened on that rooftop? At first, Dhyan Singh accepted the accident theory. Maybe Jatin had been playing, maybe he had gone into the roof, maybe he accidentally fell. But when Dhyan Singh began asking his wife about that day, he noticed something. Her answers didn't always match. Sometimes she changed the subject, sometimes she avoided certain questions, and sometimes, according to the account, She appeared nervous. Now, there could have been an innocent explanation. She had just lost her child. She was grieving, she was traumatized. But as time passed, Dhyan Singh began feeling that something else was wrong. Perhaps Jyoti wasn't only hiding her pain, perhaps she was hiding information. And that's when Dhyan Singh made a decision. He decided to investigate. Not as a police officer investigating a stranger, but as a father trying to understand what happened to his son. Dhyan Singh began collecting whatever evidence he could: CCTV footage, audio recordings, conversations, anything that might help him understand what had happened. And the strangest part? He continued behaving normally around Jyoti. He talked to her, he lived with her, he acted as though nothing had changed. But behind that normal behavior was one goal: find the truth. And eventually, one recording changed everything. A new name appeared in the story: Uday Indoliya. Uday was reportedly a neighbor. According to the prosecution's case, the families knew each other because they lived nearby. And investigators alleged that over time, Jyoti and Uday developed an illicit relationship. But why does that matter? Because investigators alleged that this relationship was connected to the event of April 28. And this is where the story takes a horrifying turn. According to the prosecution's case, Jatin came home from school that day and went looking for his mother. He eventually reached the rooftop, and there he saw Jyoti and Uday in a compromising situation. Remember, Jatin was only 5 years old. He may not have understood what he was seeing. He may not have known what it meant. But investigators allege that Jyoti feared the child might tell someone, and according to the prosecution, that fear became the motive for what happened next. They allege that Jatin was taken towards the edge of the rooftop and pushed. A 5-year-old child, the same child who had walked into the home just minutes earlier, the same child who had been calling for his mother, now lying critically injured on the ground. But there was one major problem. An allegation is not the same thing as proof. Dhyan Singh knew that. If he wanted justice for Jatin, suspicion wasn't enough. He needed evidence. Dhyan Singh went deeper. He collected recording, he reviewed CCTV footage, he went through police records, he revisited witness statements. He examined the detail of the original incident. Piece by piece, he tried to reconstruct what had happened that day. And according to the account, his conversation with Jyoti continued to produce information relevant to the case. Eventually, Dhyan Singh believed he had enough material, so he went to the police, he filed a formal complaint, and suddenly the case changed completely. What had originally been considered an accident was now being examined as a possible homicide. Police began reviewing the evidence, witnesses were questioned again, neighbors were interviewed, existing records were examined. The different pieces of the story were put together again, and eventually police filed a charge sheet against Jyoti Rathore and Uday Indoliya. The prosecution presented its theory that Jatin had accidentally discovered his mother's alleged relationship with Uday, and that this discovery ultimately led to his death. But the court had to answer an important question. Was there enough evidence to prove that story beyond a reasonable doubt? And that brings us to the verdict. In January 2026, a court in Gwalior delivered its decision. Jyoti Rathore was found guilty. She was sentenced to life imprisonment. But Uday Indoliya received a very different outcome. He was acquitted. The court concluded that while the evidence was sufficient to convict Jyoti, it was not sufficient to establish Uday's guilt in Jatin's death. And that distinction is extremely important. Because in a criminal case, being accused of a crime and being allegedly proven guilty are two very different things. The court must rely on evidence, not rumors, not assumption, not public opinion. But even after the verdict, one heartbreaking question remains. What was going through Jatin's mind that day? A 5-year-old boy who come home from school, called for his mother, and somehow ended up at the center of a case that would change an entire family forever. He was too young to understand adult relationships, too young to understand betrayal, too young to understand why someone might be afraid of what he could say. He was just a child. And that's perhaps what makes this story so disturbing. A father who refused to stop searching for answers, a mother convicted of killing her own child, a second accused who was ultimately acquitted, and a 5-year-old boy who never got the chance to tell his side of the story. Sometimes, the most important evidence in a case isn't just found in a police file. Sometimes, it's hidden inside the question nobody thought to ask. And Dhyan Singh had one question that refused to disappear. What really happened on that rooftop? What do you think was the most heartbreaking part of this case? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more true crime stories, mysterious cases and detailed investigations, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, take care and stay safe.